Okay, everyone, thanks for joining us today. I'm going to pass it over to Lizbeth to get started, but thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Good evening and welcome. Thank you for joining the nationwide celebration of National Apprenticeship Week. But Within's LA Hub is diving deep into AI upskilling and best practices. A quick housekeeping note, we'll have time for Q&A at the end, so please drop your questions in the chat throughout this today's conversation, and we'll get to as many as we can. Just a quick bio introduction. My name is Lisbeth. I'm the technical manager here at Built Within, specifically the LA Hub. And a little bit what I do is support our partners and continue the conversations with employers about apprenticeships. I'll pass it on to Luis.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lizbeth, and thank you all again for joining us. Thank you for our partners for joining us, our pre-apprentices for joining us today. It is National Apprenticeship Week, and we're gonna answer that question. What is National Apprenticeship Week here in a bit with our one of our guests, Abby from the Department of Labor. But just to say that it's not just a moment in a calendar, it's really to reflect on a model, I think on a potential model that can solve a lot of the frictions that exist within our workforce system. It's such a great at least in workforce development, is such a great and strong model that we want to promote. So we'll definitely discuss that a little bit more. But before I introduce National Apprenticeship Week and Abby, I did want to talk a little bit about Build Within and who Build Within is, what our company is, and just so you all know, Build Within. We came to this conversation around apprenticeships, like many employers do, by doing it ourselves. We, for over a decade, have used the apprenticeship model to build our own workforce. We saw how well the model worked. We also saw how hard it was to manage. We also saw how few technology solutions existed to support apprentices and apprenticeships at scale. So we built it. That became Build Within. Now we are an AI-powered company that we are an AI-powered company and a U.S. Department of Labor registered apprenticeship national sponsor. We support over 15,000 apprentices with over 700 employers, with over 50 occupations approved by U.S. Department of Labor and with various state agencies. But we never stopped being practitioners. We still spent years delivering workforce services in the workforce system and as an employer. And it's given us a very unique vantage point to see how things are working, how things are not working, and what things might actually need to change. So with that, I want to say thank you to all for joining us. Everyone here today, again, is a partner of our work. You're either a participant, which means you're a pre-apprentice. You have gone through one of our 8 nonprofit partners, and you were connected with us through the LA County Department of Economic Opportunity to access apprenticeship programs, which we are building with employers here locally. Or you're a partner who is a recognized pre-apprenticeship site, or a soon-to-be site. So we really thank you for joining us today. And with that, I would like to introduce our first guest who will answer the question that I posed earlier, what is National Apprenticeship Week? And so I want to introduce Abigail Allen, who is a program specialist with the U.S. Department of Labor, the Office of Apprenticeships in Region 6. She is based out of San Diego, California. She serves as the National Industry Liaison for Agriculture, Telecommunications, Tech, and is the State Director for the Pacific Territories of American Samoa, CNMI, Micronesia, and Marshall Islands. In addition to the above, she oversees a portfolio of over 200 programs and approximately 30,000 apprentices nationwide. So we really appreciate Abby. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for that. Didn't need to read all that. That's kind of boring stuff, but thank you very much, and great to meet you, Elizabeth, as well. Yeah, Build Within is a really wonderful program. I'd encourage anybody seeking to start their career or try an apprenticeship to definitely pursue this a little further with Build Within. They have great opportunities to offer. National Apprenticeship Week. It's the 12th annual National Apprenticeship Week. So it's been in the late fall, early winter every year for the last 11 years. So this is our first spring annual National Apprenticeship Week. Started April 26th, going through May 2nd, but we really count anything happening in the scope of apprenticeship, pretty much all of April, all of May, we claim it. We really want to build awareness about all the pathways in apprenticeship, how much apprenticeship has to offer. You probably interact daily with something that an apprentice has touched, whether, driving, the apprenticeship exists, healthcare, it's everywhere. So you would be surprised at how many lives apprentices touch. This week, we do have a theme for each week. Monday was just Apprenticeship Building America, celebrating the 250th anniversary of America. Yesterday, we were driving growth and innovation across critical industries. And today, it's expanding AI and registered apprenticeship. Tomorrow, we're realigning education and workforce systems around registered apprenticeship. So that's a big movement, especially with CTE and helping kids in high school realize that apprenticeship is equal to just going straight into college. It's kind of more that learning and earning, not such a huge, scary, expensive jump. And then really focusing May 1st on youth pathways to registered apprenticeship, and acknowledging that youth sometimes have their own special skill set that they bring to the table that we need to highlight and yet also nurture. I'm going to put the link in the chat for National Apprenticeship Week. We have virtual events happening all week and into the month, just like this one. If you are interested in hearing more about any apprenticeship, we divide that up by industry. And then if you really, really want to get out there, there's also live events like the one we were at yesterday that you can attend. Some are open to the public, some are private, but if they need a registration, then the link will be there on our website. So thank you, and looking forward to hearing more about the program.
Thank you so much, Abby. Again, we really appreciate your partnership and the partnership with the U.S. Department of Labor to make apprenticeships a reality in our country. For some of you who might not know what apprenticeships are, we invite you to look at our website, our resources. I think we're going to share more information. We're not going to go deep into not deep into apprenticeships today. The only thing that I'll say is that, it is an earn and learn model, right? So the idea is that while you're working, you're also learning, and that at the end of a year or your time with that apprenticeship, you get a certificate at the end, a credential that you can then carry across the country and get further along into that occupation. But today we're really here to talk about AI, right? AI is at the top of everyone's search. AI is the talk of the town. There's a lot to artificial intelligence. I think there also is a lot of confusion to what is AI. So today we're going to talk a little bit briefly about AI. Some of you might already be deep into AI. You might be already power users of AI. So, apologize for going and starting at the basics, but we really want to make sure that everyone's on the same page about what we mean when we talk about AI. So with that, let me go ahead and share my presentation. Okay, perfect. And hopefully that is visible to everyone. So today, this is our agenda, right? We're going to go over AI 101, just really a crash course into what is AI, what is it doing, how does it look, what are the different facets of AI, different models of AI. And then we're going to learn from Rita, who we'll introduce later, about how is AI impacting the workplace? How is it impacting work? And then lastly, we'll touch on how can you skill with AI? So a lot of the individuals here are looking to break into the tech industry. And if you are interested in doing that, you want to do that, AI has to be part of your learning journey. But how do you do it, right? How can you use AI not only to learn about AI, but how can you use it to learn about the specific occupation that you're interested in getting into in the future? And that is what our workshop is going to be today, is how do you use AI to upskill yourself, right? When that apprenticeship position becomes available, and you're going to apply and compete for a position, how do you make sure that you are competitive, that you have used all the tools in your tool belt to build the competencies and skills that make you the right candidate for that apprenticeship or for that position once it becomes open? So why should we care about AI, right? Why should we care about artificial intelligence? One is that it is a huge disruptor. It has been already disrupting a lot of industries, a lot of hiring trends. Earlier today, Build Within had a conversation with our Chief Economic Opportunity Officer of Uber. And through that conversation, they shared how some companies are are not hiring for certain positions, right? Entry-level engineers and some of these coding positions. It has already started to impact the tech industry in that way, and it's going to continue to impact it. And from these numbers, you'll see that, our workforce is changing. And so as this is changing, how do you stay ahead of it? How do you become competitive in this disruption that is occurring at the moment? So first, what is AI? Right? AI is a technology that enables computers and machines to simulate human learning. And that hasn't happened in the past. Technology before has not simulated how humans interact, how humans think, and how humans create. 2022 really changed that. That's when ChatGPT introduced this whole area of work for us, of this area of computation for us. And it is really having an impact. But that's really what AI is doing. It's simulating how humans learn, how we understand, how we problem solve, how we make decisions, and how we create, as well as how do we do tasks autonomously, right? How do we create solutions for tasks that sometimes feel repetitive and that an AI agent or some sort of autonomous computation autonomy can sort of take over. So AI is inspired by the human brain, and we could probably have a whole discussion about how that is and what it looks like, right? It becomes a cloud of just information and meaning, and we're tapping into it. But that is how it is inspired and continues to be inspired, all the different iterations and what will be in the future, continue to try to mimic what the brain does and how it thinks. But the human brain has millions of cells called neurons that transmit information from one part to another, and they connect systems, right? That different parts of the brains are activated through these synapses, and that information gets pulled into action. And that's really what's happening. It's, I think, estimated there's 100 to 600 trillion. I think it's closer to 125 trillion, but there's a lot of wiring that's happening within the system, and we are intelligent because of that way. And that is exactly what's happening with a lot of these generative AI for sure, but a lot of these machine learning and different AI models that are out in the world now. So, how did AI come to be? What is the history of AI? And the term AI actually came from Alan Turing. There's a test called Alan Turing, right? It laid out an imitation game. It basically said when something becomes artificial intelligent, it's capable of thinking, and some people believe that we are at that point now, that we have gotten to that test where there is that the capability of machines thinking, that we are already there. And that term was really coined in the 1950s by Alan Turing. Later, the actual term and how it's coined as artificial intelligence came from John McCarthy, who submitted a proposal within Dartmouth, and in that proposal coined the term artificial intelligence. But that was 1950s, right? So now fast forward 70 years, and now we are living in that reality, which is incredible because these folks were theorizing it, and now we are the beneficiaries of those theories. So AI, and we were all introduced to AI in 2022, even though this has happened since the 1950s, and there has been evolutions of AI and conversations, theoretical conversations of AI, but it was introduced to the general population in 2022. ChatGPT was one of the first companies that launched that got to that first million users. Some other companies like Facebook and Instagram, it took years to get to 1 million users. ChatGPT got to 1 million users in 5 days. It truly was groundbreaking and paradigm shifting, right? And we are now living in that new paradigm because of ChatGPT and these models. And they're not the only model. There's several more models too. There's Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, Cursor. There's AI powered companies, and then they are AI indigenous companies or AI native companies that have began since that time. And here's a few of them, right, that are using AI, and AI has enabled them to now create this new reality that we are living in. So a lot of different AIs. So it's not just what's here, but there's a variety of them: image generation, chat box, decision-making trees, like what Amazon uses. Those are all AI or AI inspired in that way. So what are the different types of AI based on the capabilities, right? And right now we are living the artificial narrow intelligence, which is weak AI. These are these systems that can create, that are being trained to perform certain tasks or to create certain products for us. It's definitely much faster than what humans are capable of doing, but we are living now in this type of AI, this type of capability. In the future, and this is mostly theoretical at the point, but there's an idea that these systems will gain a strong, they'll become strong AI, but it will be an artificial general intelligence, meaning that these systems will be able to learn from previous training, and they will be able to create new tasks or solve new problems in different contexts. So they will be able to learn in a specific simulation in a specific area, and they will be able to take that learning and apply it to a different context, right? That's going to be strong AI. And then super AI in terms of capabilities. Now you're talking about super intelligence, the idea of an AI being able to think, to reason, to learn, to make judgments, to really surpass humans in that way. Still theoretical, but the idea is there that that is a possibility that we're going to. And if you listen to any podcasts or follow any of these leaders within AI companies, you will know that some of these leaders think that we will get to artificial general intelligence, the AGI, that we will get there in the next few years. Some think maybe in the next 10 years, right, to be very conservative. Others think within the next few years that we will get there. So it's really fascinating how much AI has created this paradigm shift. Again, what is generative AI? Because that's a lot of what we're going to talk about today, and that's really what the tool that we're going to use. But AI, generative AI is a branch of computer science within artificial intelligence, which also is a branch from machine learning, right? Which is predictive models that can be programmed to create certain solutions. But this is all housed within technology. And again, there's many more layers to this, and there's many more horizontal layers to this. So as you become more interested in artificial intelligence, I would really encourage you to use any of these large language models or any of these generative AI models, which will show you here in a bit what they are. But to really start to ask those questions, right? What is generative AI? What are large language models? What are chatbots? What is machine learning? How does it work? AI has been trained on all of those questions, right? It has answers, it has that wealth of information, and you can easily go in there and start to really get those answers for yourself. Again, machine learning, this is, as you saw on the graph there, this is sort of what helped Amazon and other companies become better at what they're doing. But it's not generative AI. It's the ability to optimize within companies. And again, encourage you to learn more about machine learning because it is a subset of AI. So how is AI created, right? How is it trained? I think for those of us who have kept up, we know that some of these models are trained through supervision. There are humans in the loop. There are humans that are telling the system whether or not it is a picture or it is the right word or it is the right sentence, right? So that is how these models are being created, how they're being developed is through that supervised learning approach. There are other models that are not being supervised or are unsupervised in that way. There's still supervision, but it's not supervised in that way. And that information is creating now these different types of learnings, these different types of machine learning that's happening within these systems. So, and then the last one is reinforcement learning, right? How are these systems learning over time? And they're learning through actions. They're learning through actions that are correct or actions that are that are wrong, but they're continuing to learn and pick up skills in that way. They're really optimizing based on what they're experiencing in the real world. And if you're interested in technology, and if you're interested in having a career, an occupation within technology, right, you should definitely know deeply about these different types of learning modalities and models and how AI is being taught, because that is, especially if you're going into more computer science, that is going to be central to the research that moves forward. So with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to Lizbeth as we talk about how this system, how this work is now impacting the workforce, and is going to impact the workforce as you all are moving into it.
Luis, I'll have to pass it back on to you. Rita's running late, so
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Okay, perfect. All right. So we'll get to Rita as she talks. Hopefully we'll be able to talk about what AI is doing in the workplace. But I think I mentioned it earlier, right, in my discussion, is that there's a lot of disruption that's already happening within the workforce. Coding, right, that's one of those occupations that is just hard pressed because of the changes that AI has created. Claude Code, right, has taken a lot of those opportunities off the table for individuals. And engineering in general is experiencing a lot of that disruption as well. And there's more. We're seeing that within nonprofits. We're seeing that within fundraisers. We're seeing that within marketing. So I definitely encourage you all, as you learn more about AI, how to use AI to see how it's impacting and how it's going to impact your work moving forward. So let me go back to my PowerPoint. And okay. And it is not full screen for me, but is it full screen for you, um, Elizabeth?
I can see your screen. I know you can still see your URL, but it should be fine.
Should be fine. Okay. So again, the the bulk of this discussion today and what really we wanted to impart on all of you who are interested in how do I upskill, right? How do I get ready for that job that I want to get into? How do I get into tech? How do I do that? It really starts with using these platforms, these generative AI platforms. And again, there's so many different types of AI. So I definitely encourage you all to learn more about what are all those different branches of AI. But at the very least, everyone here should be familiar, competent, and maybe even eventually a super user when it comes to generative AI platforms. These are the platforms that create new content, right? It can create a paragraph, it can create a book, it can create an image, it can create a website, it can help you create a website, it can help you address that. These are these platforms. So they are also based on large language models, so they can create text, and there's a whole prediction element of it. And again, AI can describe that to you. And one of the really, I think, cool things and great things about some of these platforms, at least as they live, is that you can ask it what is the best platform based on your usage, right? There's still a neutrality that is within these platforms. So any of the platforms that you use, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, Perplexity, you can still ask it, should I be using this product, or should I use ChatGPT, or should I use Claude? And it's going to ask you, what are you going to use it for? What is the purpose of your engagement with this generative models? And based on what you tell it, it's probably going to give you what the best solution is going to be, right? If you are into creative arts and you need it more so for image creation, it'll probably tell you to use a different product than what you're using now, right? So definitely don't feel bashful asking any questions that you have about occupations, or any information that you have in terms of what product to use. And the great thing, I think, also as well, is that all these products are have the same sort of user experience, right? You log into these products, and what you're going to see is you're going to see this text box. And in that text box, you can either type it in, You can speak to it, right? There's a voice functions that some of these have as well. You can do a voice to text as well. Some of these already come with suggestions of how you can engage with it. But every one of the platforms has this same sort of interface. What you'll see is as you start engaging with it more, you'll have more options on the left-hand side of each of these platforms. You'll have your history of the conversations that you've had, but you will also get more of the products that they have created, right? Image creation or coding or different dashboard elements. You'll be able to see that on the left-hand side as you start to use these products. But the good thing is that they all pretty much look the same. So you don't have to worry, and it's not like is this an Android, is this an iPhone? It has the same sort of access point. So you'll be able to use it very easily in that way. So again, we are talking today about generative AI platforms. That's really the conversation that we're going to have, and how do you use these platforms to continue to upskill within your occupation. So the initial entry point into AI is prompting, right? It's asking a question. These systems are incredibly intelligent, but they're only intelligent in the way that you ask the questions in order to get the right answers. As I said earlier, if you think about it, that this is a human brain, right? If AI has all the information in the world, or at least in the English language, it has all this information. If you think about it as a brain, your brain has certain areas that are focused on technology, that are focused on analytics, that house some memories or an experience, right? That house specific areas. If you think about it in that way, then the idea of prompting makes a little bit more sense, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to narrow the AI in a specific area of work, right? Maybe you want to talk about cloud computing and technology and everything that's related to that. If you narrow your prompt, or if you narrow your questions to that specific area of the AI, it will give you more information related to that area. But if you ask it more of a general question, it will tap into the entire brain, right? And it might hallucinate, or it might bring you something that is not related to it, but it might seem somewhat related. So just keep that in mind, that a good question or a good prompt is one that can narrow the search of what you're trying to find. And there are best practices when it comes to that. Some of these platforms actually have their own learning academies. That's the case with Claude. It has a Claude Academy, Google AI Essentials, and all of these are free, right? You can type in, I want to learn AI, and you'll find a, a variety of information. If you are on social media and you follow different AI influencers, they will give you best practices or things that people are figuring out along the way on how to engage with these different generative AI tools. So I really encourage you to become more knowledgeable, find more resources so that you can really create a prompt that aligns with the type of solution or type of answer that you're looking for. So let's talk about what makes a good prompt, right? What is a good question? And there's essentially 4 elements to that question. And again, this is all about narrowing, right? So the first element is around the role. You want the AI to adopt a certain persona, right? Who is it? Who are you asking it to be? In the case of this workshop, of this webinar, we want it to be a career coach. So imagine a career coach, someone that just knows about careers. They're not a behavioral coach, they're not a life coach, they are a career coach. So you are narrowing the focus to just careers. And so it's going to bring up a lot of careers. And if you say, you are a career coach helping a pre-apprentice, now you're giving it another layer. Not only is a career coach and is helping you figure out careers, but now you're saying you are a career coach and you're helping me, who is an apprentice, and everything that means, right? What does it mean to be an apprentice? What is an apprenticeship program? Are you already in a pathway? Are you going on to the next stage to become an apprentice? The AI is now already formulating those connections by every single word that you put in that initial role. The second thing that you need to do is you need to give it an action, right? You need to say, create something for me, right? There's a task that you want the AI to do. And in this case, we wanted to create a 3-month learning plan for an IT support specialist. So not only you're saying you're a career coach and I'm an apprentice, but now I want you to help me create a 3-month learning plan because I want to become an IT support specialist. The AI is now narrowing that, right? You have to also give it context because now it knows that it's a career coach. It knows that it's helping an apprentice. It knows that you need a 3-month learning, but it doesn't know anything about you. So you want to give it context, right? You want to tell it, who are you? How much information do you have? You could be, this AI is not going to judge you, right? So if you don't have any skills in this level, maybe you don't have your math skills are not quite there yet, right? You didn't do so well within high school or even have struggled with math. Or, you can put all that context into the AI. The more context that you give it, the better it's going to be at creating that solution for you. So if you do say to the AI, right, I only have an algebra level when it comes to math, and I know that this is going to have some math elements. The AI is going to start thinking about how do I help address that gap in competency through the plan that I'm going to create, right? Or if you tell it, I don't know about the tech sector. I don't know what different careers exist, right? It's going to help to address those areas through the prompt. And then the last task or the last element that makes a good prompt is that you have to ask it to generate the product in the way that you want it delivered to you, right? So if you want a week by week checklist with all resources and you wanted to create a schedule list for you for the next 3 months, and every month you want it to be 2 weeks out of, or 2 hours out of a week, or maybe you want something that tests you and gives you assessments along the way, or maybe you want videos that will help inform you because you're a visual learner and so you need YouTube videos that helps inform that. You need to be able to give it that task. You need to be able to add that element into your prompt, how you want to receive that information, right? So you have to create the role, you have to create the action, you have to give it the context, and then you have to let it know how you want it to give it back to you. If you have those things in place, you will be able to create a prompt that's good, that gets you closer to the answer that you are looking for. And we'll talk about best practices a little bit later, but if you don't think you have the right prompt, you can ask that to it as well, right? Once you create the prompt, ask, is there anything else that I'm missing? Is there anything else that you need, right? To give me the solution that I want. So that this is your entry point into all or any generative AI conversations that you have with Claude, with ChatGPT, with Perplexity, with Gemini. If you can get these 4 elements into your prompt, into your question, you will be ahead of a lot of the people who are using these products at this point. So, what is a good prompt? What is a bad prompt? Right? Same goal, different results. Again, a bad prompt, very generic. How do I become a cloud engineer? It's not a bad question, but the issue is that it's going to take longer to get to the answer that you really want, right? It's too generic. It doesn't give any context in terms of your background, your goals. It's very narrow, sorry, very shallow. It doesn't have enough background information. And then it doesn't know whether or not there's a sense of urgency. Does this need to happen today, or do you have 2 years to figure this out, right? A better approach, a better prompt is to give it that context, right? That it is a career coach, that you are looking for a 3-month learning plan to become a cloud support associate. You have basic computer skills. You have 10 hours a week that you can dedicate to that, right? You're working maybe full time or you're going to school and your time is limited. And this is all that you can accommodate for your schedule. And you have a budget. So let's say you want to become a cloud support specialist, and you know that cloud support specialists require credentials. And so maybe there's credentials out there that are less than $200 that you can get along the way. And now the AI will know that you have a budget in mind. So now it'll give you options for some of those credentials that you can get along the way. And then also the other element to this, right, is that you have given it a format of how you want to engage, what kind of product you wanted to give it back. You want a checklist because you want to keep up with this. So why this is a good prompt? Because it is tailored to your situation. You've personalized this. It now knows more about you. And guess what? The more that you engage with it, the more that it knows your situation, what you're working on, your interest in other areas, the more that that has a fuller picture of who you are as an individual, and the more those recommendations become tailored towards you, right? And there's certain, I know Claude does this where you can actually create projects. So there's a specific project that you have in mind that you want to focus on, and that's all you want that project to focus on. You can create sort of those different project folders so that it doesn't blend between everything, right? And I know ChatGPT, I don't know, I haven't used ChatGPT in a while, but I know that ChatGPT is sort of a continuous thread, and it sometimes blends in that information. So again, the more specific, the more information that you can give it, the better that that prompt is. So don't trust it fully, right? It still makes mistakes. It's not, it's very young in that way. It hallucinates, right? If you don't know what hallucinates means, sometimes it provides information that is related in what you were talking about, but maybe it's in a separate discipline. It has the right elements, it has the right sort of things that you were asking for, but it might be in a different area of computer science. It might be in somewhere else, but it brings it as a result. So you have to make sure that what you get, that you can verify that, right? So make sure that you verify it before you act on anything. The other thing is you should not be sharing your personal information, your banking information, any of this, right? Any of these products, it's you should not be putting your private information or anyone else's private information in there, because these models are being trained on that information. So it's better not to use it if you don't want that information to be used for training in the future. And again, verify before you act. It might not be completely up to date, so it might suggest a training program that might not longer exist, right, in that way. So just make sure that you're very cautious as you engage with the information that the AI gives you, these generative AI. So going back to how do you upskill, right? How do you get ready for that job that's going to come up or that apprenticeship that is going to be developed? It's really coming up with a prompt that will get you to that level. And we're going to share this prompt with you later. So there will be a follow-up, and we'll share these prompts, we'll share these slides, we'll share everything for you. But if you are a person that wants to be competitive for that cloud computing job that is right around the corner, this will be the prompt for you, right? And let's say you are an entry level, you're just getting into this field. If you put this prompt into any of the AIs, it will give you a plan for you to go from beginning entry level to someone who has bachelor's degree level of knowledge. You will be able to create that. And we tested this out. It came out with about a year and a half planned. So if you are extremely motivated, dedicated, in a year and a half, you will be able to get the bachelor's degree level knowledge of cloud computing if you put this prompt into it and if you stick to it, right? And along the way, you ask the AI to test you, to test your competencies, you will be able to get to that point. So it is extremely powerful, extremely intelligent, and it can create this pathway for you. And if you still have questions about it, if you have doubts, you can take whatever the AI generates, take it to your local community college. Take it if you're already in school or in a bachelor's degree program, take it to your career advisor and ask, right? Is this correct? Like if I follow this, will I get that competency within this field? So um, again, very extremely powerful. Don't trust it fully, not yet. Make sure you verify, and you can verify with individuals. There's workforce development programs that are free. You can take this to them and say, is this right? Right? If I follow this, will I get this competency? And it doesn't have to be just for cloud computing. You can do this for any career, any occupation, you can plug in that specific occupation, but you do need to know that occupation, right? It will help if you know that occupation. If you're thinking, I really want to get into tech, but I don't know what into tech, you can ask those questions with AI and it eventually will get you to the answers that you need. But if you know exactly where you want to go, you know the job that you want to do, you know the occupation, the career that you want to go into, plug all that information into it, and you will be able to build those competencies, those skills over time, so that at the point that you're ready for that job or you're ready for that apprenticeship, you are ready to go, right? So again, we will share these prompts so you don't have to do it on your own. And these are the pro tips, right? I said earlier, if you feel as though maybe it's not the right answer, or is there anything that I'm missing, you can ask the AI model, you can ask the generative AI, you can ask Claude, you can ask ChatGPT, did I miss anything in my prompt, right? Is there anything else that I should be considering that that would be useful as I move forward in this? You can create study guides along the way. You can ask it to challenge you and to see whether or not you know the answer to these things. It can also help you if you're in college or in school. You can use it as a way to test yourself. You can also ask it for free resources. So it doesn't have to be just the ChatGPT or the Claude or the Gemini. You can use YouTube and you could use other resources in that way. And then you can also tailor it to your specific location. So if you're in the Bay Area, if you're in Los Angeles, if you're in Antelope Valley, or if you're in Riverside, it's different, right? Different employers, different resources. You can tailor it to your specific community in that way. So again, using AI to upskill. Hopefully, this is valuable information to you all. We'll again share this PowerPoint, but I wanted to give it back to Lizbeth to introduce our guest.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Luis, for that one-on-one on AI and prompting. So joining us today is Rita. She is the IDS Program Director, VC Startups Ambassador. Rita is at the forefront of AI transition, helping both founders and students adapt to massive workplace evolution. We're going to deep dive into how she integrates AI into her day-to-day and what we can all learn from that, right? So thank you, Rita, for joining today and for taking the time to speak to our participants here. So let's jump right in. So as the IDEAS Program Manager, you're juggling multiple responsibilities, right? From community and strategy. So how are you personally integrating AI into your workflow to manage, the high velocity demands of the LA scene?
Thank you, Elizabeth, for that introduction. And it's such a pleasure to be here and to speak about this topic. I think Lewis has mentioned a lot of important concepts about AI in general. Not only the fact that having the tools is an incredible advantage, but knowing how to use them will give you a different type of leverage. So in this situation, prompting properly is very important. So I'm glad you guys dove into that briefly. In terms of my day-to-day, my general duties fall into different categories, right? So I have a day when I have to focus more on program planning. Another one focuses on during the cohort experience for our students, helping them navigate different things or reaching out to speakers and securing specific mentors and guest speakers for sessions or for our founders and investors events. Usually there's a lot of things I have to coordinate, such as logistics, coming up with the idea, marketing, etc. So you can imagine that there is a wide scope of tasks that I have to take care of on my day to day. The AI nowadays gives me the advantage to automate and come up with systems to shortcut some of the steps I have to take that I can just easily automate and within these processes and instead focus on things that are not so repetitive, right? Like if it's a task that's repetitive, I come up with a system, use AI to shortcut and get it done quickly. And then I focus my attention and energy on things that need more of my priority, need a lot more of my brain capacity or thinking in that sense, or taking on to a leadership or thinking through some sort of a problem we may be facing, or next steps that we're looking to move forward into. Essentially, it serves as a great productivity tool for coming up with drafts for emails, reviewing certain content, refining our strategy, outreach, and marketing material kind of language if there's a need, or updating minor details that we know has been recurring for every cohort, so that I can more focus on the vision behind the program, how do I want to expand it, and what are certain tasks that I have to take care of myself, like the meetings I have to schedule for, the people I have to find and reach out to. It also helps me to find sometimes potential leads on speakers, mentors, and other organizations I should be connecting with to further help the cause we're currently working on, whether that's through the events or the program itself or some other initiative we're currently thinking about.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And I like how you mentioned you're using AI as a productivity tool, right? So really ensuring that you're optimizing it, but you're also optimizing your time by using AI. So thank you for sharing. Moving on to, the IDEAS program, right? You work with many community college students, and you probably see them from the beginning of the program to the end of the program, right? So what is the biggest mental hurdle they face when upskilling, right? So our workshop right now is about upskilling and how AI can help you bridge that
Mhm.
confidence gap that they may be facing.
Definitely. I think community college students have an interesting placement because they are curious, they want to try different things, but sometimes they don't really know what are the right resources or where to go and where to start. I think they're a little more stubborn than others. And working with a lot of founders in early stage, I realized that the biggest barrier is like a mentality focus, like shift in your mentality and mindset. Basically, not being afraid of trying something just because you haven't seen someone around you doing it. Because you haven't seen it doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do, or that's not a possibility, or you're gonna fail when you try it. It just means that you're experimental, you want to explore your curiosity, and you're not afraid of taking onto that risk or that like extra time into putting your energy into trying something that you're curious about. So my recommendation to a lot of our community college students is, let's say you're interested in a technical topic, but you don't really know where to start. You can use currently a lot of the tools. I mean, Lewis mentioned like YouTube and other resources outside of AI that, you can listen to podcasts and expand your knowledge in different areas, both technically and more product focused or whatever focus you may be looking, business focused. But simultaneously, just having that shift in your mindset that it's not as complicated as you think to get started is the biggest hurdle that I help our students to go through. Like if they're looking to start a project or they're kind of hesitant on taking on to an opportunity, I usually advise them to think through it. And even if they don't have a clear path into what exact industry they want to end up in, or they're really not too certain what kind of a career they want, like let's say software engineering versus data science versus machine learning engineer, there's so many different pathways nowadays. I encourage them to start somewhere because it's better to start and try and see what you like and what you're good at and understand more about yourself than just, assume things and be in the unknown in the sense of always guessing whether you would have been good at it or not. Sometimes when you try new things, you realize there are other ways to think about the same problem or same opportunity than you thought before. So I would say mindset is really important, and having that focus of like trying things and being open to it, even though you don't know where it's going to lead you to, is going to serve you really well.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Rita. And I think with AI now, it's even more at our fingertips to try new things, learn new things, and just explore what we do and what we don't like, and what are our skill sets, what we can master. So now shifting from the ideas programs, you also wear a hat as the VC ambassador. And so when working with these different like startups and all of that, what's the biggest difference you see between founders who use AI and founders who are more AI native, and how they build their teams and just overall foundation?
Biggest difference that I've noticed is that the founders who are AI native, they think through systems and ways they can shortcut their day-to-day um, duties and specific functionalities to increase efficiency, speed, output, and productivity with whatever amount of resources they're currently dealing with. This means when they think through about hiring, when they think through about pitching or looking for additional functions to expand into or developing a product, they identify ways where they can implement systems at a lower cost, for example, or and if it makes more sense, right? They calculate kind of all of these risks and identify that there are certain systems that currently AI can replace and do a really good job of, so they can just include those even in their day-to-day. It's kind of like a chief of staff role, right? You can build out agents, and I've seen a lot of founders right now kind of agent maxing, right? They build out various agents that help them to run certain tasks on their own, and having that flexibility and freedom for the founder themselves to focus on 20,000 other things they have to worry about now would be get cut down with the help of these agents. Versus someone who thinks about just using AI generally, they might just, generally looking into the tools that are currently trending and using them simultaneously as like shortcutting certain tasks and certain things they work on, but they're not as integrated as part of the whole process of thinking and developing the startup itself internally is a structure or the company. And I think being AI native gives them a big advantage because then they are more prone to adapting faster to new changes and new technologies coming out that can even faster help them accelerate the speed at which they're able to deliver new features to the customers that they're looking to serve.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning it. And then the agent workflows, right? I think that's a different conversations about like how to implement agents and all of that and optimizing workflow, because I know that's also something a lot of individuals are using to their day to day. So if I know you probably use AI a lot during your day to day, as you mentioned. So if you had to pick one AI tool besides, a regular chatbot that everyone should try today or this week, what would be your recommendation?
That's a really good question. The thing is, because my day-to-day can vary, or I interact with different types of founders, sometimes I meet products that are generally interesting and cool. Let's say I wouldn't use that on my a weekly basis, but it's an interesting tool to explore and play around with and to identify the full potential or the change we've been seeing and the developments we've been seeing in that specific arena. So I'll recommend a few things. One would be, for example, Gamma. I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but Gamma is basically prompting for pitch decks and presentations. So imagine now if you don't really have that vision of how to create presentations or you're struggling with creating slide decks, you can prompt engineer it. Basically, you can just write out and describe what kind of a presentation you're looking for, and it can design a, I don't know, multi-page, multi-slide presentation for you from scratch using whatever visuals and interesting factors you may want to include. Now, it's still at a phase where there's a lot of improvements that they need to implement. It still has some hallucinations, some little things that, for a human eye, it seems like a common sense and easy to fix, but for others, it's for the AI right now, it's a little more difficult to handle. But at the pace at which they've been improving the product, I'm really excited about it, and I've used it myself. It's doing really well. Another is if you like to sometimes take notes, but let's say you're driving or you just want to talk to something that can accurately take your notes. I've heard really good things about Whisper Flow, which basically would even understand the difference between like a start of a new sentence, if you wanted to go into a new bullet, basically a really accurate way of taking voice notes. So like you're speaking to your phone, and as you're driving, maybe you have some thoughts or you're trying to draft an email as you're doing something and you just don't want to write it out, you just want to say it. I've heard really good things about Whisper Flow, which again, I might use sometimes, but I don't use it as frequently as you might imagine. But these two are really good tools. If you're someone looking for more like exciting Gen AI focused feature, I'd also recommend HeyGen because they're developing basically digital twins, and you can just record or provide some images and provide some voice, and it can replicate and create multi-minute long short form videos with any content, any language you wanted to. So for example, like I can just feed it my face and my voice and say, I want you to create an AI educational 30-second long video in Chinese. And I wouldn't know if it's how accurate it is because I personally don't speak Chinese, but they have over like 40 languages that you can basically translate any content to. So this kind of accelerates the speed at which we can potentially look into content creation or trying something new. Or nowadays, the story behind HeyGen, I've met the founders, is they were too shy to share their ideas. They were like camera shy, but they were very interested to share and educate others. So they created this tool that can allow them to have their face, but they don't have to do all the talking and all the, content creation part of it themselves. Now they can just create one sample that will be replicated and will be applied into any different content they want to create from scratch. Given the fact that they're so shy, they can just provide the script and the content will be talking like you're talking. They've improved a lot. So that's another tool I'd recommend outside of the major big players right now that I'm sure and I hope all of you guys are familiar with and are using.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rita, for sharing. Definitely taking notes on those, tools that you share because some of them are new that I'm hearing about as well. Thank you so much, Rita, for coming in, sharing about your expertise, how you're using AI, and how you're moving forward as well with like these founders and how they're using AI. And so, with that being said, it's 4:30. So if you do have any questions for Rita or our Build With Them team, please put them in the chat. We'll get to them. But thank you all for joining us for the National Apprenticeship Week for the LA Hub and upskilling using AI, and hope you all learned, how to prompt better.
Thank you so much, Lisbeth. This was a wonderful conversation, and I hope to see more students use AI in creative ways and uplift some of the things they're working on currently.
Thank you,
So
Rita.
much. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Abby, for joining us. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Talk soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
It was awesome. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.